But first, our top story of the day, Donald Trump announcing his economic plan for the country. And my next guest says it is the key to saving America's businesses and workers. Joining us on the telephone is billionaire investor and Trump supporter Carl Icahn. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Icahn.
Thank you.
Got to read to the people watching what you put out on the statement and quote, a capitalistic system cannot exist if government is at war with business. You believe that Donald Trump would end that war on business. Why?
Yeah, absolutely. Because Donald has come out publicly and said, look, we're going to put an end to all this regulation. Now, not all of it. Look, there is good regulation. I mean, you really have to make sure that factories are safe and all that. But what's happened now is regulation has run amok. And I don't think they're bad people, the regulators, but I think they look at their mandates as, if you're the EPA, all you care about the environment. The EPA today is putting out, as we speak, they're passing regulations that are irrational, where they put refineries out of business at the expense of giving a windfall profit to big oil. I mean, it'll take a little while to get to that detail, so I don't think
but let me put it this way. Let me ask you this, because you brought this up in your statement. The men and women who drive this economy, the small business owners, they have to deal with regulation. And you pointed out in your statement, talking about this, you said, we cannot blame even mediocre CEOs for not investing in their businesses when they have to face regulators that are scaring the hell out of them. I mean, that's the climate that business owners face today, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's a terrible climate, and it's the reason that you don't have capital spending. Capital spending is really in a terrible shape. I mean, if you really analyze it, in a country that's supposed to grow and have an hegemony, you just had a 4% decline in capital spending, which is unheard of unless you have a deep recession. Also, productivity, because there's no capital spending, because you're not building machinery, you're not building factories, productivity is really falling off a cliff. The growth of productivity is at an all-time low. So you can't blame the worker today. The worker works with worn-out tools. So as a result, we're not competitive, and we go build in Mexico because our workers, who used to be the greatest in the world and had great machinery to work with, really now have to work with worn-out tools. And they don't have good jobs. So we're in a major problem, I think.
I have a very close friend, worked his whole life, still does, in a steel mill in Cleveland, Ohio. It went bankrupt. It's come out of bankruptcy. And you kind of hit this on the head when you kind of say the Democrats don't get it. You wrote, Democratic pundits say it is okay not to manufacture because we are a, quote, service economy. All we will be producing in the near future are more text messages and more tweets to send to each other. And I think what you're getting at there is that our political leadership for years has ignored people like my pal in the steel mill who've been saying, look, you're shipping my job to China. Why are you doing that?
Absolutely. But it's much worse than that, because as your friend in that steel mill is not earning, or even if he has a job, he is completely frightened. And by the way, his boss is frightened. The CEO of that steel mill says to himself, hey, look, I have a choice. I'm the CEO. And, I've been a big critic of CEOs, so I'm not their friend generally, many of them. Look, I think they're great CEOs around, but many are mediocre. But even the mediocre CEOs, I say, are correct in saying, hey, look, why the hell should I invest in machinery in my steel mill when I got the EPA, I got the FTC all breathing down my neck? So I got a choice. He doesn't have to be a genius to make this choice. I got a lot of options, and I'm going to want to retire. I'm going to invest in a year or two. What I'm going to do with all this money. Now, here's the reason our economy is really bad, because you look today at earnings and you say, well, they're okay. They're not really good. And we're paying 19, 20 times earnings. But you say, well, what the hell? They're earning. But you know what they're earning? Because they got zero interest rates, and because they're going in and continuously buy back stock.
Right, they're pumping up the value of their companies,
exactly.
Not fraudulently, but not accurately. It's not based on revenue and sales.
It's not based on anything except the fact they buy it back, and then they go in, cash in their options, cash in their vested stock, and go to the golf course for the rest of their life.
So I've got to